If you're watching this, I'll bet there's a good chance that you want what every American wants: wealth. But if you're a minority, specifically a person of color, and you're watching, there's a good chance the rules of building wealth in this country might have handicapped you. According to household median wealth stats, wealth in America, unfortunately, has been unevenly distributed. As of 2020, the median household net worth of a white family is around $171,000, while the median household net worth of a black family is just under $18,000. But how did we get here, and how do we fix it? To answer both of those questions, first we must talk about home ownership. Good old real estate. Nearly synonymous with the idea of the American dream, what you do is you buy a house, an appreciating asset, in hopes that its value will eventually rise as home values typically do over time. You pass the home down to your children, thus passing your grown wealth down your family line. But what if you experienced barriers to even participate in such a gainful endeavor? Or maybe it wasn't you, it was your grandparents. That can mean generations of missed opportunity for compound growth. That was the unfortunate case for many families of color throughout much of the mid-20th century. The real estate industry back then wasn't the friendliest to people of color. Redlining was a thing, where lenders would refuse to originate loans for homes in black and brown communities, and then blockbusting was common, where realtors would persuade homeowners to sell, often cheaply, out of fear that people of another race would soon be moving into the neighborhood. Despite the outlaw of these practices with the Fair Housing Act of 1968, it wouldn't be the last time that people of color would face adversity in the real estate market. The year is 2006. The real estate market is on fire, home prices are rising like yeast, and everyone is buying, and I do mean everyone. Minimum wage workers at McDonald's are somehow getting approved for multi-$100,000 mortgages, and even people with poor credit are getting in on the action. How, might you ask? Well, something called a subprime mortgage was offered by lenders to buy homes during this time. These predatory home loans were affordable for just about any wage level in the beginning, but then the payments would balloon to an unaffordable amount, thus forcing the borrower into default and needing to give up their home. The problem was that due to, on average, lower paying jobs and a higher unemployment rate than white borrowers, African Americans just couldn't qualify for mortgages with better terms, and they couldn't come up with huge down payments that would otherwise be necessary. When defaults happened on a massive scale, it caused what we remember now as the Great Recession of 2008, the greatest economic collapse since the Great Depression of the 1930s. A hard period for everyone, but African Americans in particular, who had so much of their net worth wrapped up in their homes. Seeing a disproportionate amount of these home values plummet and then needing to sell quickly, often for less than the homes were actually worth. Even today, more than a decade later, African Americans have still not recovered from that massive economic blow. Now that we know how the wealth gap came to exist, back to the question, how do we fix it? Personally, I think the solution comes down to one word: education. We have to do a better job spreading the knowledge. A home for most people will be the single most expensive purchase of their entire lives, dictating so much of their wealth trajectory and their family tree. So I believe that everyone could be better equipped to handle that purchase, not just people of color. Understanding concepts of personal finance, budgeting, loan terms, these are all important, and they should have a bigger focus in our education system. Reparations don't necessarily have to come in the form of huge sums of government subsidies. People can make wealth for themselves if they just have the proper education and a fighting chance. Think about this. If you were to give a child $100 and no knowledge of how to save or invest, they'll probably go and spend it right away. But if you give that same child $100 and some knowledge on how to invest, they could very well turn that into $1 million or more, enough to secure their family for multiple generations. Knowledge is power, and an investment that promises returns in abundance. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.